The Marine Toys for Tots foster care program is bringing hope to children who need it most. Every 2 minutes, a child enters foster care, often with only a small bag of belongings. More than 400,000 children face trauma and uncertainty, many before age 8. This May, during Foster Care Awareness Month, Toys for Tots is creating Room for Joy. In 2025, nearly 375,000 children received comfort through toys, books, and essentials, reminding them they are not alone. Donate now and change a child's life.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Man, Marco Rubio, no longer little Marco. He is probably the most respected man in the Trump administration outside of President Trump. It used to be a tie with J.D. Vance. Some people are saying that Marco Rubio is taking the lead and that things are getting a little bit tense regarding 2028. Now, Vance has a lot more political latitude than Marco does. I mean, I don't think Marco can engage in the kind of fundraising that J.D. Vance is doing, right? J.D. Vance is, and also the roles are different. But from what I understand, there is some tension. And there's also some camaraderie as well. They're both committed to doing the best job possible for President Trump. They're worried about the midterm somewhat. Marco Rubio, though, seems to be everywhere doing all kinds of, different jobs. National Security Advisor, Secretary of State. I think he took on the World Cup or something like that. He's working with Andrew Giuliani on that. It's pretty mind blowing. And, he met with the Pope. And you know what he did? We just saw he's very good at diplomacy. Now, let's face it, things are pretty tense with the Pope. But Marco Rubio was Catholic, and they had a nice little meeting, and everybody was appropriate. Pope Leo, right? Pope Leo, who's American. Although sometimes I've heard him speak. He doesn't sound 100% American. He sounds like, I don't know. But here is Marco, and over here, they get together, and they shake hands, and they exchange little mementos and gifts, okay? I'd like to let's see if we can eavesdrop, all right? Please, if you don't mind.
Well, it's easier. This is a baseball guy, but and it has the seal of the State Department. So,
okay.
What to get someone who has everything? I thought a Christian.
Olive being, of course, plant of peace. There's the coat of arms here of pontificate here, but.
Okay, that did not sound like a guy from Chicago. Sounds like something I don't know. Well, he has been. I don't know. Is the Pope being a little bit, I don't know, pretentious? Is that possible? Can I even wonder that about the Pope? Well, whatever happened there, it was a lot better than when Joe Biden met with the Pope. Now, two things about Joe. He gets there and they keep bragging about what a devout Catholic he is. And the only time he ever talked about religion, really, he bragged about how well he knew the Pope. And the Pope told him he was a good Catholic. He told everybody that. But whenever I saw him with the Pope, he was making a fool out of himself. He one time planted his head right on the Pope's head. Have you ever seen that? It's very strange. He headbutts the Pope playfully, but he's just getting in his personal space. Joe does that. He touches people, smells people, men, women, young, old. Strange, right in front of our faces. Sometimes the bad behavior is right in front of the face, and nobody will pull the trigger on it until they decide to pull the trigger. They decided to pull the trigger on Joe Biden. I don't know exactly. There was a lot that went into it. We all knew he wasn't there, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. He was deteriorating. But then they just turned on him like that. I was calling it for years. And then boom, overnight. How about Andrew Cuomo for that matter? Andrew Cuomo had his problems, but the Democrat Party, like that, overnight. Why? Why at that moment? Eric Swalwell had his problems, right? Apparently. But why? Why suddenly? Why so sudden? And I think the same is going to happen to Gavin Newsom. You watch, and my piece is going to help a lot. All right, so here is Joe Biden with the Pope telling the most bizarre, irrelevant, nonsensical story, and the Pope doesn't understand a word of it. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. He was a famous African-American baseball player in America. I know.
Americano, afroamericano.
And he didn't get to play in the Major League Baseball until he was 45 years old because he was black.
Non gli hanno permesso di giocare nella lega principale fino a che aveva 45 anni perché era nero.
And he was a pitcher.
E lui era quello che batteva la.
And usually pitchers lose their arm when they're 35.
In genere loro non giocano a cominciare.
He pitched to win on his 47th birthday.
E invece
The press walked in the locker room and said his name was Satchel Paige.
si chiamava Satchel Paige. Allora gli giornalisti sono andati nello spogliatoio.
The commanding officer said, Satch, no one's ever pitched to win at age 47. How do you feel about pitching to win on your birthday?
E tutti hanno detto, nessuno ci è mai riuscito a fare questo a 47 anni. Come ti senti averlo fatto il giorno del tuo compleanno?
And he looked at me and said, boys, that's not how I look at age.
I'm sorry, what do you say?
Boys, that's not how I look at age.
Dice, ragazzi, non si guarda all'età.
I look at it this way. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
Quanto vecchio sei?
Oh,
se
so
tu non
profound,
sapessi quanto
Joe.
vecchio sei.
So
You're
profound.
65, I'm 60.
Embarrassing. God love you.
Thank you.
Does the Pope get to talk? Not really. He just talks at people. It's the thing about Joe. You know, Joe had position basically his whole life. United States Senator, Vice President, President. Somehow he thought his charm had something to do with it, right? His charisma, his ability to connect. No, you had the job. People needed things from you. They wanted things from you. You wanted things from them. It had nothing to do with your stories, your that crap about Scranton and the rest of it. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Once again, quick, special mention and congratulations for the non-politician, Spencer Pratt. Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it? I don't care what you've done. I don't care who you are. I care who you are today. Who are you today? And Spencer Pratt, you are the next mayor of Los Angeles, I hope. He was fantastic. Up against two career politicians. What was he, a reality TV star? It doesn't matter. He's an American with passion and grievance, and he wants to make his community better. Cut 15, please. Cut 15 on the mayoral debate stage in L.A.
To the Mayor Karen Bass's, the 1,000 firefighters that were available, but there was no engines for them because of the $17 million that Chief Crowley had asked the mayor for 9 weeks before, and Mayor Karen Bass denied it. So they may have been available, but they didn't have the equipment they needed. Not to mention Janice Quinones, who Mayor Karen Bass put into her position of power at the LADWP. She drained both of these reservoirs that these firefighters needed to put out these fires. A lot of people talk about climate change and hurricane force winds. The winds in the Pacific Palisades never reached higher than 40 miles per hour. For those first 6 hours, they didn't go above 27 miles per hour. So without those two reservoirs filled with 117 million gallons and 5 million gallons, these firefighters had to fly all the way to Malibu and Encino to get water. So that to me is the most dangerous thing that the mayor put us up against.
Mr. Pratt, a follow-up here, though. What would you do moving forward that would make this better 2 years from now if we face the same situation?
Well, first off, as mayor, I will never drain the reservoirs that we need for wildfire protection. There's this conspiracy now that they're empty, that they were for drinking water. But if you research it, they were actually made for wildfire protection. As mayor, I'm going to add 20 dip sites all around the communities connecting to pools. So God forbid the water system goes down again. These dip sites that will be connected to individuals' pools will fill up for the helicopters to have water.
Mayor Bass, do you have a response to that?
Absolutely. He's saying several things that are completely inaccurate. First of all, there was one reservoir that was out of commission. He is correct. 1 million years ago, it was for wildfires, but over the last 30, 40 years, it's been for drinking water. He talked about the winds. That is just completely inaccurate. If that were accurate, then the planes would have been able to fly. And so the winds reached close to 100 miles an hour, and the planes were unable to fly. So if there were reservoirs, if that reservoir had been open, it would not have worked. We had two other reservoirs totaling 8 billion gallons that were available.
Thank
but
you.
could not fly. Yes, she mentioned me. So she's an incredible liar. Everyone on their phones, Google it. 40 weather stations in the Pacific Palisades. It never went above 40 miles per hour. She is referencing the Altadena fire.
I have to interrupt you. No name calling,
She just
please.
lied, though.
Yeah, but no name calling.
She called me a liar.
I don't believe she did.
She said
I did not hear that.
This up. I did not.
We're not going to debate the issue. We have a question now for Councilmember Rahman.
Well, I did Google it, and there is some debate about that. The wind speed may have gone all the way up to 80 miles per hour, but he says that's the Altadena fire. Sounds like he knows his stuff, but who knows? Anyway, the moderators have no business getting in there and making that kind of call. You're allowed to say those things. You're allowed. You should see what we say on the social, right? You know what I mean? Yes, Joseph. Hello. How are you? Is he there?
Hi, Greg. Good afternoon to you. Greg, the past 2 days, you've been talking about who insane Barack Obama. Are you familiar with the book Susan Daniels? Susan Daniels wrote a book exposing that Barack Obama with the fake numerals, social security numbers, fake names.
Who? Susan Daniels? No, I don't know this book. I know another book that was actually written by his authorized biographer. I mean, the guy sat down with Barack Obama, gave him all kinds of interviews, and the guy came out and said Obama's gay. It's in his book. He just wrote it in his, you found these love letters, he's confessing his lust for men, and, it's neither here nor there, you know what I mean? Doesn't really matter, but, it is a little bit curious. I don't know about that book. Are you sure about it?
Yeah. Susan Daniels, many years ago.
All right. And she said what did she say? He made up his social security number?
And fake names.
Yeah, some people think his name is not Obama. It is Sotaro. His mom was living with a guy, radical professor in Indonesia by the name of Sotaro, and there is a lot of questions about who his father is. Is it Sotaro? Is it Obama? Hussein Obama? Is it somebody else? We don't know. The guy's a very mysterious and weird guy, and the way he's talking right now is even weirder. He shouldn't be talking like this. Where the hell is my thingamajig? Where's my thingamajig on the thingamajig? You got my Obama quotes? It was unbelievable, this man. Hold on. This is the part he doesn't understand. The part about the military. Go ahead with Obama. Go ahead right there at the top. Hit it.
What powers do you believe the president should not have?
Well, there are a couple that I followed even though they weren't law. And I want us, we're going to have to do some work to return to this basic norm, and we probably now have to codify it. The White House shouldn't be able to direct the Attorney General to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants to prosecute.
Right, because technically it's under the executive branch. Technically, the norm is that it's independent.
The idea is that the Attorney General is the people's lawyer. It's not the president's consigliere.
Wrong. It may be the illusion that you guys have put forward, but the Constitution says the president actually has the power. If every lawyer resigned, it really wouldn't make a difference constitutionally. The president could bring the case himself. But here's the one about the military that really bothers me, all right? And maybe he actually believes this, I don't know, but he's wrong. Go ahead.
Second thing is the military. Don't politicize our military. As president, you are commander-in-chief. You are responsible for directing our military. But there had been a whole series of norms that were in place to ensure that you weren't trying to make that military loyal to you as opposed to the Constitution and the people of the United States. We're going to have to find mechanisms to restore that.
So that's not really what the military, how it works. The military is all about allegiance to the president, not to the Constitution. We don't need a bunch of guys interpreting the Constitution for themselves and coming to conclusions and, oh, this is constitutional, that's not constitutional. That's what Vindman did, right? Vindman's commission, the document that comes from the that actually makes him a military officer, made him a military officer, talks all about the President of the United States and how you obey his orders. It actually doesn't talk about the Constitution. That is a ceremony. That is basically they came up with it so they'd have something to take a picture of on graduation day. You raise your right hand and you take the oath. It's a photo op. But the legal document, the legal framework is obey the President of the United States. And Barack Hussein Obama, I wonder, you're not a smart guy. That much I know, right? He's powerful, and a lot of people are afraid of him because of the prestige and because of the blackness. Yes, that works with some people, not me. Be right back.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I must say, I miss going to the mall. I wish we had a mall to go to. I miss Sharper Image. I miss Brookstone. What do we have to walk around now? Where do you go to walk around and look at stuff? I go to the Apple Store sometimes, but that's not a satisfying experience anymore. I don't know what to buy. I already have an iPad. I have a a phone. What do I buy? And then the differences between these machines, they have, I don't know. It's just not satisfying. And I used to like to buy gadgets and stuff like that, a flashlight. There's nothing to buy anymore. Do you know what I mean? Everything's kind of on the phone. Everything you got on the phone. Sometimes I think about buying a new watch. I'm overwhelmed by the choices. Totally overwhelmed. What do I commit to? What do you actually... it's funny. I can spend money on a meal, but if it comes time to buying an object that I have to keep and becomes part of my life, I'm absolutely paralyzed. Absolutely, totally paralyzed. I don't know what I've been thinking about getting a watch for 5 years. And, I don't know. It's overwhelming. I get a panic attack almost. I get panicky about it. I understand there are a lot of people right now not feeling very, at ease. Now, look, big picture stuff. I'm very good. Anxiety is not. You know why? It's in the Bible. Jesus actually says out loud, explicitly, don't worry about tomorrow. Today brings its own problems. Today has enough problems of its own. Worry about today. And also, if you listen carefully to him, capital H, what he says about, look at the birds. Do I not take care of the birds? Of course I take care of the birds. They always have enough. They're always around. Are you more important than birds? And his answer is yes, we are more important than birds and dogs and cats and cows and all animal life. We're more important. They serve their purposes, but we're more important. And he makes sure that they have enough. So he's going to make sure that we have enough. So we don't have to futurize, right? It would be nice if we got closer to him. He wants that. It's better for us. And I'll tell you again, the Charles Stanley Life Principles Bible. Sometimes I give it away as a gift. It takes people aback sometimes, but it's a chance I'm willing to take. I was taken aback when somebody gave me that Bible. I'm like, what the hell made you such a church lady? Get me a tie. Get me something cool. Back then, I got it in 2012. Go to Sharper Image. Buy me a new clock radio or something like that. I was so insulted. And I was so stupid because it was the most wonderful gift anybody could ever give someone else. And I thank you to this day. You know who you are. I don't know if you're listening. She's actually in another country, but that's fine.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, congratulations to my good friend Vivek Ramaswamy, the tech healthcare entrepreneur who ran for president in 2024 and really impressed a lot of people, especially me. Very, very bright man. I think he's worth a couple of $1 billion and super duper anti-woke and accomplished. I believe he's a lawyer as well. Yeah, he went to Yale Law School. And Amy Chua and Jed Rubenfeld, these people are like the powerhouse professors up there, but they're not crazy like left like the rest of them. And they kind of mentor these students. And two people in the same class, they took Amy's class and Jed's class, Vivek Ramaswamy and J.D. Vance. In fact, Amy Chua, who's also known as the Tiger Mom, told J.D. Vance, you're an amazing guy. You should write your story. You got to write your story. He came from, wherever the hell, the single mom, what do they call it? Mama law or something like that. And whatever. She had problems and he had problems, but he overcame it all, and so did the mom. And the rest is history. He wrote a book, became a superstar, venture capital, and now he's vice president of the United States after only 2 years in politics. We have never seen that kind of ascension ever. Richard Nixon was the fastest up until that point. Richard Nixon. He went from being a member of Congress to vice president of the United States in 6 years. This guy did it in 2. All right, so here's Vivek. He won the Republican primary in Ohio. He's running for governor. And it wasn't exactly a competitive race. He clobbered the guy by like 60 points. But you set the stage because Ohio is a swing state. It's gone red the past couple of, but, Democrats have done well there. And it's going to be a competitive, closely fought contest. Here's Vivek in victory. Go ahead.
Income tax down from not just 7 brackets to 2, as the leadership has done, but down to 0 brackets because we're going to get rid of the income tax in the state. 0 income tax in the state of Ohio. It is your money, not the government's. You deserve to keep what you earn. We got to celebrate hard work and success. And if 8 other states have managed to do it, then so too will we here in Ohio. People ask me, how are you going to do it? Well, look, if we're the state that sent somebody to be the first man in the world to walk on the moon, this will not be the greatest challenge that Ohio has ever conceived. End the existent spending and overspending of waste, fraud, abuse in different parts of the state. Take a rational approach to get there. First, eliminating capital gains to allow for business formation. Articulate this to the rest of the country. Let the rest of the country know we're right here. A good governor who can market the state to the nation so people move back, so we have economic growth that allows us to go back to 0 tax. We're going to get there while also bringing down the property tax burden in this state, which has gotten way too.
I don't know. I'm not saying he's lost his fastball, but look, when you're doing local and state politics, you got to kind of, you do it a little bit differently. And I understand it's not as the rhetoric and the speech, they aren't as soaring. I think that's a bit of a stretch. He's talking about Neil Armstrong, right? Who grew up on a farm in Ohio. Did the state of Ohio have much to do with it? I think that was all pretty much Neil Armstrong and his parents. And it didn't matter if they were in Ohio or Idaho. I think it was, but good for him. It looks like he's going to do very, very well. And if he is the governor of Ohio, well, he will obviously be running for president. And they say Ohio is basically the capital of presidents. More presidents have come from Ohio than any other place. I think right behind that is New York. New York, right behind that. In fact, in New York, we got 4 presidents who came from the same block. 4 presidents lived on the same street, East 65th Street. It's incredible. And then 2 more lived like within a couple of blocks of that. East 62nd Street, Teddy Roosevelt. East 65th, Grant, FDR, Nixon, and Trump. And if you go a little bit uptown, you had Barack Obama on East 94th. Yes, we believe. All right. My beloved North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina. I lived all over the country thanks to the military. And one of the big takeaways from my experience living in Yuma, Arizona, and Pensacola, Florida, and Meridian, Mississippi, and New Bern, North Carolina, Orange County, California, is that we have so much in common. We're not that different. And, people in New York who think you're all that, and the only thing really different about here is if you're in your 20s, you tend to go out like more nights per week than you do if you live in Mississippi, right? It's basically a Friday, a Saturday night thing. Everything else is the same. Same clothes, same media, same everything. Even our accents are going away. But there is still, like, for North Carolina to go woke, for North Carolina to be in a position where Democrats have a fighting chance, the Democrats now. So listen to this. They have a North Carolina Parents' Bill of Rights, which basically, gives parents a say in what their children can read in school. Basically, it's keep age inappropriate material out of the hands of children, right? I mean, nobody should be reading pornography in school. I remember the only thing we had, right? We had National Geographic. Anybody remember the partial nudity in National Geographic? That's about as intense as it got. But now there's Queer Boy and Lawn Boy and all this stuff about gay sex and kids. And I don't want any sex, quite frankly, in the school. No sex. They'll deal with that, they'll deal with that naturally. They don't need to be stimulated. So listen to how they're characterizing the, what's it called again? The Parents' Bill of Rights in North Carolina. There are some real freaks. There are some real freaks. Anybody who is pushing, what do they call it? Drag time story hour for kids. Drag time story hour for kids. You know, that's like a national program. That's all over the place. Why? Why? They don't have it anywhere else. They don't have drag time story hour for senior citizens. They don't have drag time story hour for prisoners. They don't have drag time story hour for college students. They only have them for kids. Now, why the hell is that? Because it's grooming. Because it's sexual gratification. And you know what? I think I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to have to call the cops. I've called the cops before about this. I'll call it again. I don't care if they accuse me of a hate crime. All right. This is Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. Where do they get these people? You know, you can become a reverend online. You can become a pastor online. You just fill out a couple of things and you're a pastor. I could be a pastor by the commercial break. Let's go to North Carolina, okay? Thank you.
We have to draw the connection here between what we are seeing in these crisis pregnancy centers, what we are seeing in other Christian nationalist policy imposition on ability for trans individuals to receive health care and gender affirming care, to see what is happening in our schools with the so-called Parents' Bill of Rights and all of the ways in which LGBTQ issues, book banning, across health care, across all of the issues that deeply impact North Carolinians. This agenda is front and center, and the majority party in this moment is the one that is are the architects of those impacts. So we have to tell the truth about the ways in which all of the issues we are dealing with in the General Assembly across education, healthcare, and beyond are all tied to this central agenda of Christian nationalism.
Christian nationalism. They came up with that in a liberal think tank. What the hell is it? I've only heard liberals talk about it. I don't know. I do know I have heard some of them scoff at the idea that our rights come from God. The idea of God-given rights. Now, they haven't read the Constitution. Of course, these rights do come from God. Government is to facilitate those rights, facilitate us, like recognizing that those rights exist. They don't come from the government. They come from God. They think that's a radical. They think we're Christian nationalists. That makes us a Christian nationalist. And the nationalist word is, shall we say, has been weaponized. Yes, David, hello.
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
So anyway, I was listening to you and about all the discussions about the hate crimes against Jews. So, you know, when the Revolutionary War started, General Washington got a guy from Germany. You probably know the name. He trained 120 guys within
the Hessians. The Hessians. Huh?
It's called the Blue Book, basically the war manual for the Revolutionary War. So what has to be done, what can be done, you take retired Jewish or volunteer police, you start training Jewish people and non-Jews if they want to help out, to help to learn defense so they can protect the Jewish people against these mobs and everything else, armed or not armed, but they'll have the composure, the poise, they'll have the strategies to handle these crowds and give it back to them. Let them know if they want to play with fire, they have the possibility of being killed.
Wait.
Just like that.
All right. I'm sorry, you broke up for most of it. You're saying George Washington had a book called the Blue Book, and it helped Jews learn how to what?
He started to train the non-trained revolutionary ragtag troops very quickly with a gentleman officer, Baron Steuben from Germany, who in a short time was able to train all the soldiers quickly in battlefield maneuvers, bayonet training. What I'm saying is you do the same focus and start training Jewish people.
No. I hear you. I hear you. I get it. That's very interesting. I did not know. Steuben. I have to look that up. And you know who's probably going to know about it? Thank you for that, David, very much. Barbara, the legendary Barbara from Huntington. Barbara, did you know about this George Washington angle?
You know, that's so interesting. Just a couple of days ago, I read about some of the books that George Washington studied, and they didn't publish the name of it, but it was exactly what he's talking about. How to train troops and how to do it quickly.
Yeah.
And I want to find that book because that sounds amazing. That's the kind of thing that George Washington did, that we see parallels in how Trump is preparing us and helping our military.
I love it. So what's on your mind?
Well, so many things, but you were just talking about these ridiculous programs for children, putting inappropriate sexual things in front of them. And you wonder why? Well, let's listen to what Marx said. Karl Marx said, the education of all children from the moment they can get along without a mother's care shall be in state institutions. And Lenin said, give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted. So this is being very deliberately to train our children in the gay, the transgender, to take that for granted, to take it as normal. And as we have with our young Americans today, if you or I have any objections to any part of that, we are such evil people. They see us as the worst, most inconsiderate, most unfair people. So that's what's going on with all that training. And that's also how we got all the anti-Semitism that we're seeing coming out of the colleges. It happened back in the 1970s when our college professors became overwhelmingly liberal, and they found a great audience for their liberal filth. And the students that they taught in the colleges then went down to the elementary schools and the high schools. And so at all levels of education, our children are often taught by people who have no understanding of our founding, no understanding of our principle, no appreciation of the liberties that they have enjoyed. And they want to blame anyone who is conservative, anyone who has morals or scruples. They want to blame them for whatever is wrong in their own life. And they've been doing that for 55 years. It's a wonder that we were able to elect Trump. Thank God we had enough people left in this country who stand with MAGA. And what we have to do is keep fighting and fighting and fighting to educate our children as to the truth of our founding. That equality of opportunity in America is not discrimination, as the left would say. Equality of outcome is what the left wants. They want redistribution of wealth. But these 55 years of students being brainwashed and taught, being put through our institutions that have been attacked and have been changed and have been debilitated. We put our children through the schools, through the churches, our media, all of our institutions have been turned against our liberties and against our founding.
Well, I mean, all right. There's still hope, all right? We're not, not all institutions, right? I mean, we got to be vigilant. A lot of people are pushing back against all of this stuff, right?
Yes, people like you, people like me, people like the friends that I have that are working very hard on liberty, especially religious liberty, because our morals are the root of all of our liberties.
All right.
Yes.
Barbara, we appreciate it. We appreciate it so much. What a warrior she is, huh? Hey, how about that Hunta virus, the Hunta virus? Some people are calling it the next COVID. Don't buy the hype. This thing is under control. Be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Just a couple of things about the Hunta virus. The thing that has distinguished this particular outbreak is the cruise ship. It's the cruise ship that has everybody kind of excited and interested, and that guy who's got to keep it together in his video, and he's crying. I mean, dude, half the battle is keeping your wits together. Don't give in. Don't give in to the fear. And a little trick is when you feel afraid, don't say you're afraid. You'll find yourself less afraid. I didn't like that. A grown man looking into the camera, crying. Oh my God. It just, dude, and you look fine, by the way. All right. Don't just let your imagination run away with you here. Now, I get it. Hantavirus, if you get it on an individual level, that can be very, very bad. Historically, for the rest of us, geographically, behaviorally, quite narrow. All right. This is not going to take down a civilization. All right. Because, it's just not in the same I mean, mentally it sounds worse than COVID, but it's not. The United States, how do you get this thing? In America, forget that shit for a second. You get it if you start rolling around on the ground and there's deer mice, those little ticks that rodent droppings. Are you spending a lot of time in cabins and sheds, unwinterized? Probably not. You're not going to. It is not typically spreading from person to person the way a regular cold does. Now, the total U.S. case counts are incredibly low. Usually we have a couple of hundred cases every 10 years, not millions and millions and millions. And right now on that boat, we don't have, and not everybody on that boat has it. The CDC has tracked only a relatively small number of confirmed cases since surveillance began all the way back in the 1990s. Now, hantavirus remains, it's deadly. Okay. It's deadly, but it's not actually like threatening our society, right? If you get it, you may be in trouble, but it's not going to go person to person. And I know that there was some concern about that on the ship and that kind of thing, but the ship is a very unique environment. Now, the hantavirus is very, very intriguing for epidemiologists. It is a very serious illness. There is a high fatality rate, okay? But it's very, very limited in transmission, okay? Americans become hyper aware of these things in part because of the legacy of COVID, right? Hantavirus belongs more to an older category of fear, like, fear on the frontier, Little House on the Prairie days. And when you think hantavirus, where do you get it? Abandoned type structures, right? Ruins, cabins in the desert. Where do you see a lot of rodents? And we don't have a lot of rodents in New York. I mean, if you look at night, you see them around garbage cans and that kind of thing. You'll notice that they don't want anything to do with us. I don't want anything to do with rats. They don't want anything to do with us. They are scared as hell. They are more scared of us than we are of them. But in a civilized, no, we're going to be fine. This boat came from South America, and the word was that they were doing some really intense, exploring of the jungles and the woods. And, some of them may have done that ceremonial stuff where when you disconnect from nature, what do they call that? Not a hiatus, not a retreat. They go wireless. It's a meditation retreat. And they go meditate, and sometimes it entails sitting on the grass. Oh, and walking barefoot. There's this whole thing about how if you really want to connect electromagnetically to the earth, you have to walk around barefoot. I never subscribed to it, although I heard somebody I know and like. He says it a lot. I don't think it counts if you're walking on the sidewalk. You got to walk on grass. And if you walk on grass, there's all kinds of mice down there and all kinds of mice, like lice. All right. So the hantavirus is not something we have to be all that concerned about unless we have a relative on that boat, and we don't. Okay. Although my buddy up there in the Bronx, who we haven't heard from in a while, this is right off the coast of Cape Verde. Remember that time I finally got out of him where he was from, and he accused me of being racist for even asking? And I'm like, dude, you have an accent. I can tell you were born not in America. I know, but why did you say that to me? Well, that was the answer to your question. No offense. All right, to be continued. I got to do some videos for this evening, and they should be very, very powerful. All right, working hard on those babies. At Greg Kelly USA, if you want to track it on X, if you want to track it on Instagram. What other platforms am I on? Oh, Substack. At Substack, it's at Greg Kelly US. No A. All right, no offense, America, but at Greg Kelly US on Substack. In 12 hours, Gavin Newsom's career is over.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Sacco and Feliz, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFeliz.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.